morning, everybody. Today's topic is the importance of differentiated instructions to enhance learning. I'm sure all of us as teachers want to teach in such a way that all our students imbibe what we are teaching. Am I right? But today, it's not so easy because of the diverse student community. We have students from different backgrounds across the world. They come from various backgrounds. There are various factors leading to this. Personally, I feel that differentiated ethnicity or backgrounds that they come from is very important. They have also different personal experiences. Every student will have something in their mind or their way of learning, which they think is very, very easy for them to understand. For teachers teaching differently, they may find it difficult. And also, they might come from different educational experiences. Today, it is no more like, students join the school only at the beginning of the academic year. It's not like that anymore. Students can join a school at any part of the time because of their parents being transferred, etc., etc. So they might come from a CBSE background, national curriculum, IG, IB, etc. So we have to see that they are at the same readiness level as in the classroom, and we have to change our teaching techniques accordingly. Their interests may be varied again. The learning styles, of course, each child has got their own way of, learning. And motivators is the lesson that we are teaching them, is it motivating the student? We need to think about that. And most importantly, every student is at a different intellectual level, which we need to remember. So let's look at this. The old way of teaching method, okay? So one size cannot apply to all. One size will not fit everybody. I'm sure all of you will agree with me with this. Unfortunately, some classroom structures do not address this issue. Let's remember what Howard Gardner told us. The biggest mistake of past centuries in teaching has been to treat all children as if they were variants of the same individual, and thus to feel justified in teaching them all the same subjects in the same manner. So it is a monotonous lesson, whether it is science or math. The teacher thinks she has the right to present it in the same way. How do we solve this issue? How do we address it? The only way to address this issue is the differentiated teaching techniques. And this one method has proven to be a successful way of learning and teaching. So does it mean that all of us have to prepare different lesson plans for different students? That is, if you have 30 students in a class, is it possible for a teacher to plan 30 different lesson plans? I'm sure it is impossible, and none of us can achieve this. So how do we solve this issue? So let's delve deeper to understand this better. Differentiated instruction, as we say, is easy for a teacher to adopt, is a way of thinking about teaching and learning. It is a model that guides instructional planning in response to students' needs. So the teacher plans a lesson which is according to the students' needs. It motivates all students in a class to learn. However, it requires a lot of planning from the teacher. Okay, it provides complete satisfaction to a teacher, so which is very important. A teacher needs to be satisfied, and that is completed through this kind of teaching. How do we make it successful? The lesson is designed in such a way that it caters to all types of learners. I'm sure all of you know the different styles of learning. So this method of planning will be adopted by any kind of learner. So what is the differentiation of instruction? It is a teacher's response to a learner's needs. It is guided by 3 different principles. One is respectful task, flexible grouping, and ongoing assessment and adjustment. Adjustment is something which is very important because we teachers, once we get into the class, we need to remember that there is a lot of diversity and everybody is not going to learn in the same way and they're not going to be in the same mode. So the teacher must be ready to have a flexible plan to change accordingly. So what are the different ways to differentiate? There are three different ways in which we can differentiate. One is content, what we have planned to teach for that particular class. Process is the way we teach the lesson. What are the method in which we are going to teach the lesson, and what is the product? Product is the outcome of the lesson. How much the students have understood us as teachers or our teaching. So for this, a lot depends upon the readiness, the interest, and the learning profile of the student. So let's look at what is readiness. Readiness is nothing but it refers to readiness for a given skill, a particular skill that you want the child to learn. Is the child ready to learn that particular skill? What are his interests and attitudes? Okay. And are they fascinated about it? Is the learning relevant to their understanding? Is it worthy of their time? All these to be considered. The learning profile and need. So this refers to the learning style of the students, as we discussed earlier. It is the intelligence level of the students, how much they are ready to learn the lesson, and how interesting it is for them. So this can be achieved in many ways. First of all, the strategies that we can use in this kind of instruction is lecture. 5% lecture is allowed by the teacher. Reading can be 10%. Audio and visuals can be 20%. Demonstration can be 30%, especially for a science lesson, or for that matter, any lessons as well. Demonstration is very important. So that can be 30%. Discussion can be 50%. Practice by doing, actual doing in the class can be 75%. And most important way is teach others. Immediate use of learning is 95%. So when you ask a student to stand up and tell the others what he learned, the other children will learn it much faster. So this is a very successful way of teaching. So let's remember, the content is what is taught, the process is how it is taught, and the product is how learning is assessed. Okay. Usually the assessment takes place in the end, but that is not right. We need to assess the students at every level. As we are teaching, keep checking on them if they have understood or not. All right, let's move on. The ways to differentiate are, as I told you earlier, content, process, product, and effect. Now, what can we consider under content? It is adaptation of the style of teaching, content that the students should learn, interactions, age appropriateness, academic readiness, are they ready to learn, and language appropriacy. Now, if you are going to use high vocabulary to teach students who are at the basic level, it is not going to be helpful. So we need to use language and vocabulary that is enough, that is required for that level of students. So that's very important. And what could be the process? Okay, there are various ways. We make them sit in groups. You can ask some students who are very, very intelligent, who can do their work independently, to sit separate and do their work, while the others will be put into small groups, and rest of them in whole groups. So that depends upon the teacher and how she has understood the student. That's very important. The teacher should analyze their learners before actually entering the class. That's important. And what is the product? How can the product didn't have to be just the answers from the textbook or one way of answering questions at the end of a lesson. So the product, the outcome of the students can be presented in various ways. It can be presented through videos, through audio, it can be writing, it can be graphic representation through organizers, it can be through projects, it can be through a play or presentation or a role play. It can be anything that makes the student comfortable and happy. Okay. What is the effect of differentiated instruction? We need to, first of all, look at the environment. If you can see this picture, the student should be able to go to the board and look at what is the information given there. So readiness of the board, the environment, kinesthetic movement, where the students are allowed to go and look at the board. They're allowed to move from one section. Suppose we have various groupings, we can ask the student who has completed to go and check on the other group what they have done. They can learn from them and also give ideas to that particular group to imbibe their knowledge from each other. So this is very important. Students should feel accepted. Suppose a child is not doing well, we cannot just say, oh, come on, you're too, you have not understood anything. Instead, motivate them and make them feel comfortable. Positive feedback always helps. In my opinion, that's very important. If you're going to be negative, then the student is not going to be happy in your class. So student well-being is of utmost important. So assessing the type of learners becomes very important. Before we actually enter the class, the teacher's duty is to make the lesson plan it according to the student ability. Nowadays, of course, we have the CAT4 results, based on which we can group them. We can understand from the previous tests that we have conducted if, which students come under achievers, who are medium achievers, and who are the low achievers. So based on this, we can prioritize and give them activities which suits them. Assessing students beforehand is thus very necessary. Understand the student's style of learning. Yeah, there are various kinds of learners. Their interests are varied. So we should understand in what particular way this child is going to learn. If he thinks that, he can speak well, give them a chance to come up and explain the lesson to the other students. So that is one way of motivating them and also make it interesting for the other students. Identify students who are independent learners, put them separately. And of course, if you want, you can ask a child who needs help to sit next to them. But if they finish the activity, we need to be ready to give them something else. Okay, then nothing else ready, just go to a corner, sit and read a book and come back and tell us what you have read. So such things are very important in a particular lesson. So what is the principles of a differentiated classroom? Yeah, what is it so different and why is it become so successful? This we need to understand. Now, all students participate in a class in a respectful manner. There is no point where the child is not interested. Everybody wants to learn in this way. Teacher and students work together to ensure that the lesson is being understood and taught well. It is no more that the teacher stands behind, and goes on giving a lecture and the students are not going to sit and listen as earlier. Now the students are very robust. They are, they come in with a lot of knowledge. So they're just not going to sit to us and listen to us when we say, okay, I'm going to continuously talk. You understand what I'm saying. It doesn't work like that anymore. I'm sure all of you will agree with me. The teacher coordinates the use of time, space, and activities. The activities also should be planned in such a way that it can be completed within a given time and given space. Okay. If the classroom is small, then you should design it in such a way that some students have some place at least to move around. Flexible grouping is also very, very important. As I said earlier, we need to understand their learning ability and group them accordingly. Of course, there is teacher's priority whether she wants the grouping to be homogeneous or a heterogeneous group. If you want them to learn from each other, put different styles together. It is okay. They learn from each other. But if they are somebody who do not understand and get along, then you cannot put them under a heterogeneous group. And most importantly, if you think lower achievers are put into a group mostly because they need teachers' help, the teacher will go to them when required. So this one way is very important for us to remember how we are going to, within the jurisdiction of the teacher. She has got the ability to understand the students. So she can ensure that all the students are sitting in a place where they are going to definitely learn. So that's in our hands. Now, time use is flexible in response to students' needs. So sometimes we think that, oh, within the span of time, I have to finish, and we try to rush. That way, the students is definitely not going to learn. They might partially understand, but complete understanding will not take place. A variety of management strategies, such as, having learning centers. In a classroom, you can have a place, even a small bench with 2 chairs or 3 chairs is more than enough. You can ask the students to sit there in the learning centers. They can read. You can ask them to draw some pictures which are related to the lesson if they have finished early. And you can ask them to help other students who are in need. You can tell if there is a very naughty child, you can tell the other students to keep them next to them, monitor them, as well as help them learn. Clearly established individual and group criteria provides guidance towards success. So giving them individual attention for some students who really require it is very important. That is why group criteria works very well. It brings almost successful learning. And this has been tested. It's not just that I'm saying, it has been tested time and again. Students are assessed in a variety of ways to demonstrate their own thought and growth. The old method of textbook and book answers and questions are no more relevant to learning. They have to understand, they have to, experimental learning is very important. Give them a chance to understand, to, explore. Explore is a very important part of learning. Give them a task, ask them to do a bit of research, come back with their own answers, and then allow them to give the answer. Then explain to them if they are wrong. Always, it is not necessary for the teachers to always be in command and always keep telling them their answers beforehand. Not necessary. We can give the students a chance to come up with their own research and then share it with the class. This really helps in my experience. So what is the big difference between differentiated lesson plans and a traditional classroom? Okay, I think in most schools, even today, we all follow the traditional classroom. More so because it's very difficult some schools have minimum number of students, teachers. They have to travel to so many other classes to teach. It becomes very difficult for the teacher to plan, and to keep everything ready for different classes. But this method is slight work on the teacher beforehand, but then it really helps the student community to understand and learn better. So in this traditional method, what happens is first the problem is assessed in the class at that time. But in a differentiated classroom, you will find that it has already been planned by the teacher. She has taken the trouble of planning beforehand so that there is no problems arriving anywhere. So in the traditional method, again, assessment are usually done at the end of the lesson. But in a differentiated lesson, it is assessed at every point of learning. Through the lesson, as the teacher is teaching something, she can question the students. Okay, formative questions is so important for the student to understand. So keep testing them at every level. This happens very well in a differentiated lesson plan, which is very well planned by the teacher. A relatively narrow sense of intelligence prevails. So in this, again, when we are going the traditional way, the teacher plans, goes with the textbook, and she knows this is what I have to teach. And so there's no way that the lesson can go beyond the textbook. Okay, the teacher will focus on what is there and try to complete her portion. But here, in a differentiated way, focus on multiple forms of learning and intelligence is very evident all through the lesson. So there are various activities which are focused on different dimensions of learning. So that is very vividly visible in a differentiated lesson plan. Coverage of curriculum guides and drives instruction in the traditional classroom. The teachers have got so much to complete. So the major focus for her is to complete that lesson in that particular period or within the next 2 periods. So her mind is filled with this. There is a lot of pressure that she must complete the lesson within the given. I'm not blaming the teachers, but it is like that. You have to finish the portions within the set period. But student readiness, interest, and learning profile shape instruction. So there is no need for us to rush. In this method, the teacher is also able to complete her portions, but the learning comes out very vividly. You have 100% teaching satisfaction. your children will understand very well and also enjoy your learning. Whole classroom instruction dominates. So the teacher gives just one instruction to entire class, and the entire class throughout the period will follow the same kind of instruction without any difference. Many instructional arrangements are used in the differentiated classroom. As I said, we are doing grouping. Suddenly the lesson can change to another way, and we can ask the students, now come on, go look into research, find out what is the answers, explain it to your students. So this happens in a differentiated classroom. A single text prevails. As I said, one textbook with one lesson prevails in a traditional classroom. But here, differentiated classroom, we can take the lesson to any level. Okay, we can ask them, go find out what is this, look into this, find out who did this, research about the author. There are so many ways we can take the lesson to a next level, which is evidently visible in a differentiated classroom. Okay, I hope you're following what I've said and agree with me as well. So let's look at a few strategies of differentiation. What are the different strategies that
we use? You, ma'am. Yeah, it's
yes.
at 12:50. Like if you need more time, the questions are lined up.
Okay, just 5 minutes, can you?
Sure. Please, go ahead. Thank you.
So yeah, what are the strategies that we can use to plan our differentiated lesson plan? One is tiered lessons, flexible grouping, which we discussed so long. It can be tic-tac-toe questions, multiple intelligence, graphic organizers can be used. Exit cards can be given to the students once they have completed their task, multiple texts, reading corners, choices of books. There are so many ways with which we can learn. So let's look at some of them very closely. Tiered lessons is, the way you plan the lesson, the different kind of activities that you give, simple to complex planning, etc. The output of the lesson can be through graphic organizers, can be the students during their learning can be made to sit in flexible grouping. They are finished, they can be asked to move. Okay, anchor activities where you give a student in charge and ask them, one group of students, to teach the others. Response cards, how they come back to your instruction with their own answers, giving them exit cards, etc. These are some few possible ways. So what is tiered differentiation? To understand better, which I did not explain. Again, it talks about the content, the process, and the product. This can be tiered through assignments. It can be tiered through activities, homework, experiments, assessments, writing projects, etc. So you can make it a differentiated lesson, not only at the introduction level, it can be made even during the activity, the explanation, and also during the end time when you need to give them homework and final winding up of the lesson. Okay. So there are 4 steps in which a tiered lesson can be done. One is to identify key concept skills. Second is to think about students and use assessment to understand their readiness, interest, and learning. Third step is interesting challenges and first where the students can come out very well with the skills. And adjust. The 4th step is to adjust accordingly to all these activities. Okay. What else can I do? You can use class recorders. You can use graphic organizers, flow charts to Venn diagrams for them to learn as the activity component. You can use them. Have students underline or highlight words as you are teaching them in their textbook. Use questions that are related to Bloom's taxonomy, which is very important, higher order skills, etc. Collect topic-related, supplementary-related. Instead of giving them only the textbook, we can give them comic strips, which is related to the textbook. Of course, the same thing, they will be learning it in the form of a comic strip, which interests the child better, and they feel happy to do that. You can give them newspaper articles, you can give them magazines, different way of learning strategies. That's it. Okay. Provide word goals for students to conference while reading and writing. Encourage different forms of expressing learning, through drawing, through activities, through poetry, etc. Use flexible grouping, peer tutoring. As I said, ask the child who has understood very well to explain it to others. Response cards, use student diaries, learning logs, journals, etc. Shorten or lengthen assignments according to the time frame and maintain the objective of the lesson, of course. Rewrite the problems using less or more complex language depending upon the student readiness. So when we do this, I'm sure your lesson will definitely be appreciated and learned very well by all the students. So let's remember this. One size cannot fit all. So make your lessons differentiated, and that is going to really help you as well as your students. Now I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lakshmi Prasad. Can you stop sharing your screen, ma'am, so that audience can have a better view of you, please? Thank you.
Just a minute. Is it?
Yeah, great. So, ma'am, there are around 14 questions lined up here. Most of the points are already covered by you. If you want, you can skip them, or if you want to throw more light on the question, you can do so. Okay. The first question is, how does differentiated instruction benefit diverse learners in the classroom?
As I said, now there might be students of different, learning styles. So when we're asking one child, if they're, instead of asking them to write, a child may not like to write. And that child definitely has an interest of speaking. He can speak very well. So you ask the child to come out and present his answer in the form of a speech in front of them, or in the form of a role play. If he wants to write a poetry, allow him to write. There is no harm as long as the child is learning. That is important. That's our main focus as a teacher, right? To give the children a chance to learn well. So if they have learned it, let them present it in a way that they want. So that way their learning is definite. Have I answered?
So can you provide, yes, please. Can you provide examples of how teachers can differentiate instruction to meet the needs of various learners?
Yes. As I said earlier, ma'am, first of all, differentiation could start from the basic introduction. Okay, it didn't have to be always the textbook. Just based on the topic, she can ask various questions to different students, get their output. Okay, that through that she can lead the lesson, of course. And then when you're teaching, you are asking them to, after they have understood, you will ask them questions. So you can ask students from different groups. You would have made them sit in different groups. Ask them to explain the question. Other child from a different group will answer. Make another group of students to judge whether these people are correct or not. And then they will give an answer as judges. Okay, what this group said was right. Whatever this group said was wrong. The correct answer is this. So that is very interesting way of, promoting learning in class. It makes it very interesting for the students, and they will definitely appreciate it and give a good feedback too. So differentiated learning is again can be done now, even through activities. As I said earlier, activities can be differentiated in many ways. See, normally in a traditional lesson plan, it is the textbook, and then the child is expected to write the answers and fill in the blanks, blah, 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 the same way. But here, the activities are coming out in different ways, different style of learners. Okay, some will be graphic learners. So you ask them to write, no problem. Some would like to, put it up in the form of a play. So give those children to come out and exhibit their talent. If someone wants to speak, and allow them to speak. So some would like to have it in the form of a quiz. Give them a chance to frame questions and give answers. Ask the children to come up, and that is a very interesting way of learning. I know it's difficult to plan, but yes, if you do it with taking a little bit of interest and time, it definitely works out.
Yes, ma'am. So what role does assessment play in implementing differentiated instruction effectively?
Yes. So this is very important. See, ma'am, the assessment has to be done at different points of the lesson, as I said. It begins right from the introduction of the lesson itself. You question them. Questioning at different part of learning is very important. We understand, the teacher gets to understand how much they have understood or at what level they are. So it becomes very easy for us to give the right instruction right inputs to the students so that they understand better. At the middle of the lesson, question them. If they have not understood, we can always go a step further to explain. And if you're going to keep it only in the last, then it doesn't work because it doesn't give the teacher the scope to explain further. So there is various ways of assessment, as I explained. It can be done in different ways. Give them quizzes. Online quizzes are very, very famous nowadays, and the children really enjoy it. So make it, interesting and fun. Learning should be fun. That's what I think.
Right. So children are different with diverse needs. How does differentiated instruction support students with special needs or disabilities?
Yes, this is a very important question that you raised. See, as I said, when the most important thing about grouping is this, we are giving special attentions to the low achievers. These people need a lot of attention. So here we can make a homogeneous group where the students are made to sit somewhere very close to the axis of the teacher. So the teacher can keep looking at them, give them different kind. Suppose a child is not able to understand high vocabulary, give them small activities, which the child will complete, and then they will feel happy that they have achieved something to do. The child should feel happy in the class. You should make them feel wanted. So give them appropriate activity to their level. The teacher will always give them some kind of help. Suppose they're not good at spelling, give them some important words, sight words as we call them. Give it to them. That will help the child to frame sentences. So this is one way of promoting and helping the low achievers group. And you can also have one high achiever sit with them. Okay, this is possible. And as a teacher, I would give them, suppose the activity is 1,000, I'm not 1,000, they cannot write. If it's going to be an article writing for 300 words for the other students, for them you make it 50 words. It's enough. Ask them to write frame sentences. It's fine. As long as they are learning something in the class, they will slowly achieve the next steps. But this is the way to help them in class. Give them a task that they can complete. It should be related to their readiness level.
Right, ma'am. So what challenges might teachers face when implementing differentiated instruction, and how can they overcome them?
I didn't understand and get your question, ma'am. Can you repeat?
So, while teaching this differentiated instruction, what kind of challenges teachers might face, and how can you suggest how to overcome these challenges which teachers can face?
Yes. See, this has to happen in the planning stage. If the planning stage is taken care of very well, then the problem will not arrive in class because we have very limited time, maybe 45 minutes or 50 minutes. So the teacher should not be focused only on time. That also will not help. It is okay. The last component, if she's not able to finish, give it as an assignment for them to do at home. If she feels the lesson is too large and she cannot finish it, give them work to do at home. Give them a video. Tell them, prepare on this, go through it, understand, come back with the questions. Next day, when you question them and begin the lesson, you will know that they have a lot of information. So they're coming prepared to the class previously and making them into groups. Suppose I have one lesson and I have to finish it, and what I would do is I would divide that lesson, give the reading to 5 different parts or 4 different parts, however you want. Ask each group to read one particular page of that particular lesson. So divide that 4. Suppose the lesson has 5 pages, 5 long pages. Give each group one page. Ask them to read, understand. They will explain the first page. The next group will explain the second page, so on and so forth. So within that span of time, you can definitely complete your 100% learning. Everybody would have got the point.
Right. So how does technology support?
Yes, ma'am. Technology.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. You can finish the answer first.
No, it's okay. I think I was almost complete there. This technology plays a very important lesson in today's part in today's way of teaching. First of all, introducing them with a lot of videos is very important in the class. Okay. introducing audios. When the teacher is always teaching, it becomes very monotonous for the students to listen. So give them a variety. Now, instead of you telling what the input is, introduce through an audio. So the child will listen to somebody else speaking. There's a variety in the voice and it is not monotonous. So the child will listen to them, then you question them. See that if they have introduced. Other way, you can give it as a listening comprehension. The students will listen and then answer the questions. There's a various ways. Okay. And you have to assess their readiness level. Give them a quiz, online quiz. Give each group one different quiz. Ask them to study. You can nowadays, it's so easy to use technology in class. All of them come ready with their iPads and things like that. So you can give them a quiz online, okay, which they can access and they will do their own work. You give them a topic, they can do research on that. Now you can show differentiation here very well, which I have already done and practiced in class as well. And so what I do, I want children to compare and contrast. So I will be giving them I'll divide the class into 4 different groups, and each group will be given one video link. Okay, so they will listen to it and they will answer. So each group gets a different topic to understand, and then you can cross-question them. Each group will present their work. Presenting their work in class is so important so that each group learns from the others as well. And giving them live sessions in class, quiz, talking, understanding from various other speakers, all this plays a very important role. And online assessment also.
So
for us.
Yes, ma'am. So how does differentiated instruction align with current educational trends or standards?
Mostly, I think, at least in Dubai, most of the schools want differentiated learning method. So it is happening in most schools, but still it's not being adopted by other schools. As I said, because of the inhibitions of the student strength and the teachers are less in number. So it becomes very difficult for the teachers to prepare. For this kind of learning, understanding the students is very important. Categorizing where their intelligence level is and how many students are high achievers, low achievers, all these things has to be assessed by the teacher before she enters the class. Only then it will be successful. We have to understand the students before we actually begin. So we cannot just walk into a class anymore and just teach what you want. No, it requires a lot of planning. And it becomes a practice, it becomes very easy. Once you have assessed your students, everything falls into place. I hope I have answered the question.
Yes, ma'am. So that ends the question answer round because of the time constraint. School Journal of Education and schoolreformer.com. Thank you for the talk and for patiently answering all the questions, ma'am. Though there were some questions were repetitive, but you really answered very well in detail. I hope the audience have really enjoyed the session. It was a very informative session. We also thank the audience for participating in the event. We will end the session now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.